What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I hope that you're doing well. Thank you, as always, for being here, for watching the videos, for showing up and stopping by in celebration of the end of 2022's Halloween season. We're going out with a bang. We're going to listen to the whole album, David Bowie, Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, released in 19, hold on, gotta get the year, 1980. This is going to be his 14th studio album. We've listened to several albums from David Bowie already, and we're going to listen to this one, add this one into our reservoir, if you will. Now, I don't think that this album has anything to do with Halloween or anything like that. I chose it solely because, one, it's been recommended a lot, and two, I literally chose it because of the title of the album, Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. That's the only reason I'm choosing it for Halloween. I'm sure there's, tens of thousands of other albums out there that are probably more relatable to the season. But maybe this is just my excuse for wanting to listen to more David Bowie. So here we are. So on this album specifically, the only track that I do know is Ashes to Ashes, which I did already cover here on the channel. Will I listen to it again here? I might. We'll see. But I do know that song already. Fantastic song. But otherwise, we have 9 other songs at least here that I do not recognize at all. It's No Game, number 1 and number 2, to open and close out the album. Up the Hill Backwards, which reminds me of Kate Bush running up this hill, or that hill, but backwards. Scary Monsters and the Super Creeps, the title track. Ashes to Ashes, Fashion. Teenage Wildlife, Scream Like a Baby, Kingdom Come Because You're Young are the other remaining tracks here on the album. So I'm excited to go ahead and listen to this. I know that this is coming after his Berlin trilogy, which I haven't listened to. As a matter of fact, to be honest, Low was the next album that I wanted to listen to, but I saw the album title on this one and I was like, well, let's just do it. And personally, it's never a bad time to listen to Bowie. So we're going to go ahead and start our album listen here with It's No Game Part 1. We'll stop each track afterwards and discuss, talk about it, review it. I'll let you know my first thoughts. You can let me know your thoughts as well, whether it's your first time hearing it or your 100th time hearing it. Hope it's an enjoyable journey for you guys. Definitely hope it's an enjoyable journey for me. And without further ado, let's get into it. It's No Game Part 1.
シルエットや影が
Documentaries on refugees.
新聞は書き立てる
Woo! And a little record scratch at the end. All right, David Bowie, he's opening this album up with a bang. There's a lot going on here vocally and guitar-wise. First of all, let's get this out the way. Who is on the guitar on this particular track? None other than the acclaimed, the famous Robert Fripp, King Crimson. How good is it to have Mr. Fripp on the guitar here? And he brings a very dissonant, almost broken down mechanical kind of sound to the guitar here. You know, you just kind of hear it really creaking along there in the back, almost rustily. Like, it's a really interesting kind of sound that he brings there. So that's really cool. Bowie himself, he's coming here with a few different vocalizations. That very throaty, deep yelling and screaming that he opens up with, I thought was really cool. Definitely something not heard from Bowie, at least for myself, really. Just getting down to the nitty gritty of his vocals there. But then, of course, contrasting that with the soulful approach, which we've definitely heard from Bowie. I thought that was really nice to hear those two styles coming together in the track. And then you have some Japanese narration that's going on as well, which adds this kind of, I mean, for, someone that doesn't understand Japanese, it adds a sort of mystique to the music. It adds something culturally unique as well. I don't know what the lyrics are saying. I don't know what Bowie is saying in his writings as well. We'll find that out as we look deeper into it. But I think that there's a lot going on in this track, just melodically with the narration, Bowie's singing, and Fripp's guitar. There's just a lot to look into with those three things. And once again, I like how at the very end, Bowie's just yelling, shut up. And then it kind of gets a little record scratch moment. For some reason, and maybe this is because I'm thinking about Fripp now, for some reason it reminds me a little bit in some ways of Discipline. Reminds me a little bit of Adrian Belew. I don't know. I'm getting a little blue in my mind, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let's look at the lyrics on this one. I'll try my best with my Japanese. Shiru, shiru eto yakage ga kakume a miteru. All right, I know kage means shadow, so there's that. Motengoku no jiu no kaiden wa nai. I don't know what that means, but silhouettes and shadows watch the revolution. No more free steps to heaven. And then the translation for what was said there, it says the Japanese text is a translation of the Bowie verse that follows it. Okay. Bowie had rehearsed the Japanese vocals with his Japanese teacher as he originally wanted to perform them himself. But he ended up using a recording of his Japanese teacher since he was having difficulty with the pronunciation. Okay, that makes sense then. So the Japanese is just the Japanese translation of what he says in the following verses afterwards. So I'm just going to stick with the English part so I don't mess it up too much more. I am barred from the event. I really don't understand the situation. And it's no game. I think that in some way he's talking about politics or world events in some capacity. He's talking about, in the first verse there, silhouettes and shadows watch the revolution. No more free steps to heaven. Like people are watching the revolution occur from the sidelines. I don't know, something like that. Documentaries on refugees, couples against the target. You throw a rock against the road and it breaks into pieces. Draw the blinds on yesterday and it's all so much scarier. Put a bullet in my brain and it makes all the papers. When he says draw the blinds on yesterday and it's all so much scarier, you can close the blinds on the events of the past, but that just makes you ignorant to what happened. If you can't stare history and some of the atrocities and stuff in the face and you just shut the blinds to it, then it's going to be scarier because now you don't know what's going on. You're not aware of what's happening from the past and you can't prevent what happens in the future. So where's the moral when people have their fingers broken? To be insulted by these fascists is so degrading and it's no game. Then he ends with shut up, shut up. So I don't really know what he's referencing or what exactly he's talking about, but I'm kind of getting, like I said, a maybe geopolitical statement in here. And then looking at Wikipedia, just to see if we can find any specific information on this track here. It says that, let's see, it was recorded in New York City. Instead of improvising lyrics and music as he had with prior releases, Bowie informed Visconti that he wanted to take time composing and developing the lyrics and melodies. So I guess his vocals weren't recorded until later, in 1980 in April there. And the actual music was recorded in February, so just a couple months later on. It says here that for the lyrics for number 1, It's No Game, are spoken in Japanese by Michi Hirota, with Bowie screaming the English translation, as we mentioned. It says, O'Leary cites this as reminiscent of John Lennon's performance on Plastic Ono Band. Bowie said he employed a strident female vocal to break down a particular kind of sexist attitude regarding Japanese girls and women in general. Hirota recites the lyrics as is, complete with the strong male I pronoun, ore. The track ends with an intense guitar loop played by Fripp, followed by Bowie screaming, shut up. Yeah, we heard that. We heard the song, so we don't need to read the description of it. But yeah, I did like like I said, the contrast between the English, the Japanese, and I guess the more straightforward Japanese talking, basically, and then Bowie's shouting and screaming. So, really fun and great track to open up the album. Let's go ahead and move on into the next album here. We'll play the last few seconds of It's No Game. Give me a second. Just got to open it back up. There we go. Get to the last few seconds here, and we'll lead into the next song, Up the Hill Backwards. Let's go.
It's got nothing to do with you if one can grasp.
Okay, help me out with Up the Hill Backwards. Help me out a little bit. The verse, like we just heard there in the ending, well, I should say the intro and the outro, which we just heard there, there's some interesting, stuff going on in there. So, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to appear smarter and use words that I don't understand. I'm pretty sure that, 1, the meter is in 7/8, okay? And There's also some syncopation going on because the music, especially the guitar, is kind of off a little bit with the beat of the drum. But even the drum, there's like a V drum that's being hit, almost acting as a snare, that at certain points is being hit like in very awkward moments. And I think that's the syncopation part. I think, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. I might be completely wrong. But I think that's what's making that intro and outro so weird. And even thinking about the actual title of the song, Up the Hill Backwards, if you listen to the verse, it's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of harmonies backing Bowie up. It's very feel good. It's very inspirational and moving. But then counterbalance that with what's going on, like I said, in the intro and the outro, and it's completely different. So here's what I'm thinking. The verse, which is very traditional, is going up the hill. But the outro and the intro, which are a little bit stranger rhythmically, are the backwards part. So there's still a progression happening, it just may be in an unexpected way. Which I think was a really cool way to kind of bring this all home and bring this all together. I mean, I really like that. That's really an interesting way of coming to this from a songwriting point of view. Because like I said, the verse, this is pretty straightforward. And it's very powerful, the drums especially. They have a really, really big pound to them and a big weight to them as they're moving along and pushing everything. And as I mentioned before, Bowie, especially with those vocal harmonies behind him, are just pushing everything further along, pushing that rock up the mountain. Because for some reason I'm imagining someone pushing a rock up the mountain. But they're perhaps doing it backwards. Now I do see that in this track apparently as well, we still have Fripp playing in here. So perhaps he's kind of part of that backwards section, that weirdness in the music in the beginning and the end. Especially, like I said, really in the end here. Like I said, you got the V drum that comes in as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that section's in 7/8, and then it's that backwards guitar. I don't know. There's some magic going on in there. This one, looking at the lyrics, the vacuum created by the arrival of freedom, and the possibilities it seems to offer. It's got nothing to do with you if one can grasp it. It's got nothing to do with you if one can grasp it. A series of shocks, sneakers fall apart. Earth keeps on rolling, witnesses falling. It's got nothing to do with you if one can grasp it. Yeah, up the hill backwards, it'll be alright. While we sleep, they go to work. We're legally crippled, it's the death of love. More idols than realities, I'm okay. You're so-so. I like that line. I got no idea what we're talking about. I feel like maybe he's talking about progression of mankind. Technological, societal, culturally, etc., etc. I feel like he's talking about mankind is going up the hill, but we're doing it a little bit backwards. We're progressing, but there's still some things that aren't quite working right. And we could make the progression much faster if we fix these things, if we were perhaps facing the right way. The line at the end where he says, more idols than realities. Like, we're worshiping all these people or all these celebrities, politicians, higher figures in a sense. And we don't need to be worshiping them. We don't need to be following them just because that's what they are. They seem higher than everyone else, We worship them more than the realities that we deal with day to day and that we could fix in our day to day. I think. I think maybe we're talking about something like that. Looking on the Wikipedia page for here, it says, lyrically, the song concerns the struggles of facing a crisis, partially influenced by Bowie's divorce from his wife Angie. Okay, so that's perhaps why he's talking about things falling apart, and maybe even in the chorus when he says it's got nothing to do with you if one can grasp it. Maybe that's how he's sneaking in a line like that relating to his divorce, perhaps. I'm not sure. It looks like on this one, hold on. The backing tracks for the song were completed here at New York's Power Station in 1980. Lineup consisted of Bowie, drummer Dennis Davis, rhythm guitarist Carlos Alomar, who played with Bowie on Station to Station, I believe, and bassist George Murray, with lead guitar by Robert Fripp and Roy Baton. And then going back down here, once again, this is one of those songs that the lyrics were taken seriously, and he wanted to take time to actually focus on the lyrics here, which I see here. And then just looking a little bit further down, I'm trying to see if there's anything specific about. Okay. The lyrics of Up the Hill Backwards deal with the struggle of facing a crisis. Bowie misquotes Thomas Anthony Harris' self-help book, I'm Okay, You're Okay, a guide on how to save marriage relationships. NME editors Roy Carr and Charles Shar Murray see this as a reference to Bowie's divorce from his wife Angie, which initiated shortly before the sessions began. Okay. And I guess it's talking about that sudden arrival of freedom, like freedom in your relationship. Okay. Okay, that's kind of interesting. I see what Bowie's doing there. Let's go ahead and move on into the next track, which is actually the title track, Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. Let's go. We'll let the last few seconds here play. There we go. While I get the lyrics up.
She opens strange doors that we never close again. She asked me to stay.
You know, the title track actually works really well for Halloween. Okay, what I find really cool about that track is all the details underneath the main drive of everything. So, for example, in the chorus, you get kind of a vocoder effect behind David's voice, which is just right on the underside of that. And you get that, it's like really interesting effect back there, because it's not up front at all. It's not even to the side, it's like underneath, but it's like buried in there. That is barely even noticeable. I see once again that you have Fripp in here, which is confirmed just listening to it, because his spider-like tendencies, which I can just imagine like a spider creeping across a floor. His guitar plays like that, especially in the little solo near the ending of the track. I really like this kind of eerie, creepy feeling that it has. You also have his guitar in a lot of places kind of playing like an alarm, like just like it's just adding a certain kind of suspense to the song here. Even Bowie himself is singing with a little bit more of a creep factor. Not a ton, but just a little bit of a creep factor. The drums, also I really like the percussion of the production on the drums. I forgot to mention that before. But it's just very, very well produced. The drums are heavy, like sufficiently heavy to add almost like if you're home alone at night and the door just really loudly knocks. It's kind of like that. That's the feeling I get when I'm listening to the drumming here specifically. But like I said, I'm finding most of the details to be from Fripp and the way that he accents the music with this kind of spooky sound. You know, like I said, with that spider-like guitar in there. But yeah, this is a good track. I'm liking this album so far. It's a little bit more straightforward with a little bit of like unique sides. It's pretty straightforward, like, I don't know, rock, art rock, glam rock kind of thing. But I'm enjoying this. She had a horror of rooms, she was tired, you can't hide me. When I looked in her eyes, they were blue, but nobody home. Well, she could have been a killer if she didn't walk the way she do. And she do. She opened strange doors that we'd never close again. Are y'all summoning something? She began to wail jealousy's scream. Waiting at the lights, know what I mean. Scary monsters, super creeps, keep me running scared. Scary monsters, super creeps, keep me running scared. She asked me to stay, and I stole her room. She asked for my love, and I gave her a dangerous mind. Now she's stupid in the street, and she can't socialize. Well, I love the little girl, and I'll love her till the day she dies. So, their relationship is not exactly good for each other, or at least, in a sense, he ruined her, he messed her up somehow. She asked for his love, but he gave her a dangerous mind. So maybe he's made her paranoid in some ways, or made her feel defensive in some ways. She wails Jimmy's guitar sound, jealousy scream. Waiting at the lights, know what I mean? I'm just imagining that he's saying like she's screaming the way that Hendrix's guitar would scream, the way, like the tone that he would get out of it, which is a really interesting way of kind of saying that, you know? And then he just repeats, scary monsters, super creeps, keep me running scared. I think it's just about a relationship, and they're creepy with each other. I don't know. Let's look this one up, because I'm not sure on that one. I'm not sure at all. let's see. Musically, the track is notable for its lead guitar by Fripp and distinctive synthesized percussion. The lyrics, sung by Bowie, charted a woman's withdrawal from the world and descent into madness. I got that, but is she descending into madness because of him? Did he do something to make her feel this way? That's what I'm trying to find out. Because it sounds like he's had some influence on that, but I don't see anything here specific about that. So let's just go ahead and move on to the next track. Ashes to Ashes. Will we listen to it? Let's go ahead and listen to it. Why not? I won't spend a lot of time discussing it because I've already talked about it in another video. But yeah, let's give it a listen here.
It's such another song. I've heard a rumor from ground. But I'm hoping to kick back this light that is glowing.
Okay, I mean, let's just get the obvious out the way. That's a perfect track. It's a classic. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Don't tell me it's not. This is a melancholic funk that we are thrown into here. Ashes to Ashes, a sequel, a spiritual successor to Major Tom. Like, that is how you make a connective tissue almost seemingly where there isn't one. A sequel that adds to the story, adds to the meaning, adds to the depth. There's so much to look into here. It's very introspective. It's very retrospective, looking back, but at the same time looking within. The music is, like I said, very, very funky with that bass being played by George Murray. Just absolutely satisfying. And then the drums, Dennis Davis, especially on the back half, on the break there. Just the way that he flies on those hi-hats is gorgeous. Very elegant. Bowie's singing, of course, is filled with such a range of emotions from despair, depression, to feeling lost, into perhaps finally finding and realizing what he's been looking for, what he's been searching for. Lyrically, of course, there's a lot to look into here, but it's the guitars and synth that really brighten things up, especially the wow, 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 wow. Like, that just sounds good. Now, you know who's going to be doing that? That's going to be Andy Clark, who's played along with, of course, Bill Nelson, Bebop Deluxe. You've heard of him. But he's on here doing the synth work. Can I just once again mention something really quick? I love how when I'm listening to these older bands, these older groups, I love being able to see names and recognize them and connect. And it's just it's so cool to, like, you know, here on a Bowie album, listening and hearing Robert Fripp or Andy Clark, Bebop Deluxe, like, seeing all these bands connecting with one another, you know? And it's something that is very obvious in modern day music as well, because you typically have features and stuff like that on, you know, people's music, and it's also really cool. But I just like to be able to, like, discover that, because, like, ooh, that, you know, that sounds like this person. Oh, because it is that person working on the music here. And like, it's just a very beautiful song, and I really love all the connections that you get out of it. And like I said, this is one that I think you can't go without. It's one of those tracks that stands out, and I'm sure it's probably one of the best tracks on the album if you're listening to it. I love all the echoing, the background, almost like that ground control, the people talking, you know, this Major Tom character to reality. And where is he really, you know? There's even a kind of fun, jolly, sing-songy rhythm to the way that Bowie sings, but at the same time, it's not happy necessarily. You know, it's a stark realization of the truth and of realities that can't be avoided. But I like how that rhythm in the deliverance, that cadence, is still there, like a happy, kind of fun song. But the fun's not really there. The lyrics. Do you remember a guy that's been in such an early song? I've heard a rumor from Ground Control. Oh no, don't say it's true. They got a message from the Action Man. I'm happy, hope you're happy too. I've loved all I've needed to love. Sort of details following. The shrieking of nothing is killing, just pictures of Japanese girls and synthesis. And I ain't got no money and I ain't got no hair, but I'm hoping to kick. But the planet is glowing. Ashes to Ashes, Funk to Funky, well, no Major Tom's a junkie. Strung out in heaven's high, hitting an all-time low. So once again, I just like how this, you know, completely twists the story of that old song. You know, I just think that's one of the coolest things for Bowie to do that. And I think we've mentioned it before, but this is also a self-reflection for Bowie and the drug issues that he was dealing with as well. So there's just a lot to look into with the way that he approached this and how he wrote it. Time and again I tell myself I'll stay clean tonight, but the little green wheels are following me. Oh no, not again. I'm stuck with a valuable friend. I'm happy, hope you're happy too. One flash of light but no smoking pistol. I've never done good things. I've never done bad things. I never did anything out of the blue. Want an axe to break the ice. Want to come down right now. So trying to break that habit. I like how he says he's never done good things, never done bad things, nothing out of the blue. The one flash of light, no smoking pistol. Like, I'm thinking that flash of light is perhaps his realization of the issue, or perhaps that is him indulging and perhaps returning to drugs, following. My mama said to get things done, you better not mess with Major Tom. You better not do drugs. Basically, I mean, that's really all it comes down to. Looking at, let me see, I just want to see if he's anything to say on this one. Bowie said himself in an interview, shortly after the single's release, it really is an ode to childhood, if you like, a popular nursery rhyme. It's about spacemen becoming junkies. Bowie said that the song wouldn't have happened if not for Inchworm by Danny Kaye. Never heard of Danny Kaye or Inchworm. He described the song as a very 1980s nursery rhyme, which you definitely get that feel in the chorus, and that's kind of what I guess I was getting at with that cadence and that delivery that's being said. Bowie said that with Ashes to Ashes, he was wrapping up the 70s, really, for himself, which seemed a good enough epitaph for it. So there you hear it from the man himself. But once again, I like how we take that fictional character, relate it to oneself. Let's move on into the next track here in the album, which is going to be Fashion. Speaking of which, you know, it's been the Halloween season and I've pretty much stuck with 2 shirts because they're the closest things I could think of for Halloween. I got my Kiki's Delivery Service shirt on, and then my Starry Night, but it's like a kind of twisted Starry Night shirt that I've been wearing. Anyways, Fashion. Let's go. Let that bass ride.
Fashion, turn to left, fashion, turn to left. Listen to me, don't listen to me. Talk to me, don't talk to me.
Okay, how many times do you think that this song has been used to open up a runway show? I would not doubt it if it's been used thousands of times to open up a modeling show, a clothing line, or whatever. Why not? It's fashion, it's funky, it's grooving, you get you dancing. You better use it as your walkout. Once again, like the funk of everything, the rhythm just stands out, the bass. Bum. Just like that's just great. It almost has a pseudo disco kind of sound, especially in some of the back halves of the guitar and the bass. Just very like dancey movements, almost like a little Soul Train. You can do a little Soul Train on it. That's nothing wrong with that. This is like a really fun song. Even Bowie with his fashion, like when he's doing all that. The song reminded me a little bit of Golden Years with that kind of soulful but very danceable kind of rhythm as well. I do think it's cool to hear Fripp on here again, kind of adding his unique guitar sound to this track, especially more so in the beginning and kind of in the middle there. It reminded me actually a lot of Blue, but this is making me realize, I guess, thinking about King Crimson now, I guess how much Fripp and Blue actually worked very well together, specifically on Discipline I'm thinking of. But like right here, like that harsh sound, that's like gears and metal just grinding against each other. But I think it's so cool the way that Fripp has this kind of industrial sound in his guitar, and it works really well here. You know, to take something that sounds so harsh and perhaps fragmented, but to toss it into like a grooving track like this. You know, I think that's a really cool choice. It's just very exploratory. You know, there's no holding back. Yeah, we can fit all that into a relatively straightforward disco, you know, grooving track like this. This would not sound out of place at a roller rink. Once again, this track comes on at the roller rink. Think back to the days when the roller rink was actually a thing, right? It hasn't been a thing, I don't think, really for a long time. But you put a track like this on, everyone is jumping from their tables. They put their half-eaten pizza down that's overpriced, run into the roller rink, and you're riding around. You got the older guys, the teenagers, whatever age you are, the older kids, the older people that are doing like the backwards and they're doing their spins with their feet. Like, you know what I'm talking about? They're doing the crosses like that. They're out there having a good time. Looking at the lyrics. There's a brand new dance, but I don't know its name, that people from bad homes do again and again. It's big and it's bland, and it's full of tension and fear. They do it over there, but we don't do it here. Fashion turn to the left, fashion turn to the right. We are the Goon Squad, and we're coming to town. Beep, beep. Listen to me, don't listen to me. Talk to me, don't talk to me. Dance with me, don't dance with me. Beep, beep. There's a brand new talk, but it's not very clear that people from good homes are talking this year. It's loud and tasteless, and I've heard it before. You shout it while you're dancing on the dance floor. Oh, bop, fashion. So he's talking about fashion, and fashion is always something that's changing. Fashion is, it comes from this side, it comes from this side. Fashion is just always a revolving door of different things. Anything can be in fashion, and then the next day it can be out of fashion. Then he talks about people from good homes, people from bad homes. What is he getting at? That's the question. That's the question. Sometimes like Bowie writes in this way that on top it may seem simple, like you could look at this and just look at fashion. Okay. But then you got to dive in. You got to get beneath the waves. Isn't that Arion? You got to get beneath the waves and let's see what he's actually talking about. It says, let's see, according to co-producer Tony Visconti, Fashion was the last song completed for this session. Its bass line and some of the melody taking inspiration from Bowie's 1975 hit Golden Years. I swear I didn't read that before. Robert Fripp contributed, blah, blah, blah. The track was noted for its emotionally vacant choir effect and the reoccurring onomatopoeia beep beep. Which is kind of, hey, you got to add in your own taste, right? You got to add in your own thing. Let's see. It says that the references to a goon squad coming to town provoked theories that the song actually concerns fascism. However, Bowie played down this interpretation in an interview shortly before the release of the album, saying that what he was trying to do was move on a little from that Ray Davies concept of fashion to suggest a more of a gritted teeth determination and an unsureness about why one's doing it. Okay. All right, so it is about fashion, but once again, just a little bit deeper. Just a little bit deeper in there. And then, let me see. I was trying to see if I saw anything else, but I don't see anything else of particular interest on the information here. So let's move on as we flip the album, as we flip the record, figuratively, and move on into the next track, which is going to open side 2 of the album. That is going to be Teenage Wildlife. Let's go. This is a song that it nicely builds up from the beginning, but then I think that it stays on the hill too long. What I mean by that is that the climax of the music feels really, really good. Like when it hits that peak, as we've just heard, like it's amazing. It's a great feeling. It's a feeling of open expression, and Bowie from the beginning is right away singing his heart out. The music alongside with him. I love the guitar just wailing. You know, you have Fripp on this album. I mean, not on this album, but on this song as well. But you have Carlos Alomar on guitar next to him, and I don't know who's doing what. But you also got Chuck Hammer on guitar synthesizer, which I want to say we hear at the end, like around 6, like around here. I'm not sure who's doing what, but there's a lot that's happening. There's a lot of guitar-ness that's happening in there. And I think all of it sounds really good. I like the drumming, especially when we get a little bit of a longer fill from Dennis. Like, I like everything that's going on in here, but that climax just goes on too long. Or at least it felt like it did. Like, the song is almost 7 minutes long. And I feel like the climax began like halfway through. And it's pretty much just the chorus, but it just keeps on going there at the end. And I feel like the payoff goes on so long that it begins to lose its power. It begins to lose its edge. It would have worked really well on a live stage show, but as a studio cut, I felt like it could have been shortened just a little bit. But this break here, in the verse, this is great. This is what I'm talking about. This provides a nice valley to that eventual hill. And the bass in this valley is just kicking. Just throbbing. That's great. The drum change alongside with it, the urgency in Bowie's singing, that feels really good. And I like how it's paced. Bum, 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 bum. Like, it's really good pacing, rhythmically pleasing delivery. I just wish that climax, like, it's just cut it just a little bit. And hey, maybe it wasn't that long that it went on. No, it goes on, in my opinion, pretty long, almost 3 minutes. And I don't feel like it needed to be 3 minutes, although I enjoyed what the musicians were doing in their particular places, especially the guitar solo there. Let's get into these lyrics. Well, how come you only want tomorrow, with its promise of something hard to do? A real-life adventure worth more than pieces of gold, blue skies above and sun on your arms. Strengthen your stride and hope in those squeaky clean eyes, you'll get chilly receptions everywhere you go. Blinded with desire, I guess the season is on. When I was thinking about teenage wildlife, I feel like he's either talking directly about teenagers or just the energy that teenagers have, the changes that teenagers are going through as they switch from childhood to adolescenthood to adulthood. And I feel like he's just kind of honing in on that. Sorry. I had a bubble that came up from my lungs or somewhere in there. So you train by shadow boxing, search for the truth. But it's all used up. Break open your $1 million weapon and you push your luck. Still you push your luck. A broken-nosed mogul. Are you one of the new wave boys? Is he talking about new wave like the genre? Or fashion? Same old thing in a brand new drag comes sweeping into view. As ugly as a teenage millionaire pretending it's a whiz kid world. You'll take me aside and say, well, David, what shall I do? They wait for me in the hallway. I'll say, don't ask me, I don't know any hallways. But they move in numbers and they got me in the corner. I feel like a group of no one. They can't do this to me. I'm not some piece of teenage wildlife. All right, just because of his comment about the new wave boys, is he and it's 1980 that this was released, is he talking about new wave like the genre or just younger generations of musicians and he's feeling pushed in a corner, but he says he's not going to be pushed in a corner? Those midwives to history put on their bloody robes, and the word is that the hunted one is out there on his own. And you're alone for maybe the last time, and you breathe for a long time. Then you howl like a wolf in a trap, and you daren't look back. You fall to the ground like a leaf from the tree, and look up one time at that vast blue sky. Scream out aloud as they shoot you down. I'm not some piece of teenage wildlife. I'm not some piece of teenage wildlife. Let's look at the Wikipedia page for this one, because I'm actually not sure about this and the meaning on here. It says that the song's lyrics have been widely interpreted. One interpretation is that they are an attack on Bowie imitators who emerged in the late 1970s, such as Gary Newman, who personally believed himself a target. I've been meaning to listen to some Gary Newman, but I haven't yet. Carr and Murray state the song is Bowie reflecting on his younger self, while Pegg considers it a confrontation to critics who tried to prevent Bowie from evolving throughout the 1970s. And if there is one thing you can say about Bowie is that he has continually evolved. The song's original title was It Happens Every Day. Producer Visconti said, instead of singing Not Another Teenage Wildlife, Bowie would sing It Happens Every Day. Okay. In 1980, Bowie commented on Newman and his whiz kid world, saying, what Newman did, he did excellently, but in repetition, in the same information coming over again and again. Once you've heard one piece, it's that false idea of high-tech society and all that which is doesn't exist. I don't think we're anywhere near that sort of society. It's an enormous myth that's been perpetuated, unfortunately, I guess, by the readings of what I've done in that rock area at least, and in consumer area television has an awful lot to answer for with its fabrication of the computer world myth. I'm not sure. I'm still not exactly sure what he's talking about. I guess he's saying that Newman did good stuff, but it's really repetitive. I don't know. I've never listened to Gary Newman, so I don't know. Let's just move on into the next track there then, which is going to be "Scream Like a Baby." Let's go. Let's go.
What did I run away? I really can't remember. We never had no fun. So damn falling, spitting in their eyes, like a baby.
Ooh. All right. That's a good one. That's a really good one. So story-wise, we're basically getting like a story of two people who are being put into a re-education camp of some sort, right? Into some sort of prison to be re-educated. We'll get into that later. Thematically, I really enjoyed the very end of that, where those heavy drums come in, and it just sounds like heavy militaristic boots stomping and walking on the ground. Really, really nice touch. Really great touch. The drums in here are just rumbling. I really love the chaotic nature that the drums are being played. That really sweet synth line on the side. Once again, you got Andy Clark on here. I love that little addition. Really adds so much flavor and texture into the music. The bass in the early part of the song comes up really nicely. I want to say near the beginning of the verse. Back it up right by here. I don't know where it is. And even here, I couldn't find that bass moment I was looking for, but even in this little pre-chorus there, you hear like that, I don't know if it's a synth piano, synth probably, but like it sounds like a disturbed key. A disturbed note, if you will. Like it's crying, like it's breaking down. That's good. And then we get back into the chorus of the song. But that's really good. I like that part a lot. I want to talk about these lyrics though. Well, I wouldn't buy no merchandise and I wouldn't go to war. And I mixed with other colors, but the nurse doesn't care. And I hide under blankets or did I run away? I really can't remember. Last time I saw the light of day, but I remember Sam, because he was like me. As we get further into this story, like I said, he's in this, some sort of re-education camp or whatever. He says that he wouldn't buy any merchandise, he wouldn't go to war, he wouldn't follow the government. He wouldn't fight for the government, he wouldn't support the government in any way, so the government locked him up. He was a dissenter, a dissident. Scream like a baby, Sam was a gun, and I never knew his last name, and we never had no fun. Well, they came down hard on the F word, slur, and they came down hard on the street. And they came down harder on Sam, and they all knew he was beat. He was thrown into the wagon, blindfolded chains, and they stomped on us, and took away our clothes and things, and pumped us full of strange drugs. And oh, I saw Sam falling, spitting in their eyes, but now I laid me down to sleep, and now I close my eyes. Now I'm learning to be part of society. Like, he's being re-educated right there. I love how we're getting his perspective and this friend, Sam. So, one thing, the mention of, like I said, the F word, the slur, for gay people, it's well used in here because it's supporting what the government, this fictional government, is viewing those people. Even earlier, when he says, I mixed with other colors, we could look at this in a racial sense as well. You know, he was happy being among other cultures, other people, but the government didn't like that. The government didn't like all these different people from different backgrounds and races and people like just coming together. They didn't like that. They wanted to keep it separate. So you could even view segregation racially, sexually, every way. And they blindfolded them, stomped on us, pumped them full of strange drugs. And I like how the chorus is, Sam was a gun. It took me a second to kind of think about that, but we'll get to the ending of the story here shortly. Sam wasn't one to be quiet. Sam was a shooter. Sam was always going to be outspoken, always going to fight for his beliefs, for his rights. He wasn't going to surrender himself or submit to this government. No athletic program, no discipline, no book. He just sat in the back seat, swearing he'd seek revenge. But he jumped into the furnace, singing old songs we loved. And then the chorus just repeats from there. So rather than surrender to this government, rather than fall prey to them, Sam jumped into the furnace and just ended his life. I think that that's I think that's really hard hitting because obviously this is something that occurs around the world today. And I also think that before he jumps into the furnace, or I guess, yeah, it's before he jumps into the furnace, they were singing old songs they loved, holding on to that part of them, their true selves, before they arrived to this re-education place or whatever. That is really good songwriting. That's really good. That's a deep look into everything here. It says Scream Like a Baby was one of several tracks that evolved from pieces Bowie had written years before. It was originally composed in 1973 with different lyrics as I Am a Laser. That's a completely different track and sound and song title. It says that Bowie has I'm sorry, let me see. Though set in the future, the story is related in the past tense in a fashion Bowie has described as future nostalgia. A past look at something that hasn't happened yet. That's really cool. That's good. That's a great track. Let's move on into the next one. Air just came on. Oh, let's move on to the next one, which is going to be Kingdom Come. Let's go. Davis could open a bakery with all the rows that he's putting out at the end there. just saying. So let me get this off my chest first. I didn't enjoy the way that Bowie was singing in this particular track. I didn't. He was like overdoing it with like on the ends of like every single word or every single line. He would elongate the last word with like a. It was just something I noticed that was just reoccurring. And like after the first few times I heard it, I'm like, oh, he's really doing that every single track here. But really, I do like what Dennis is doing there at the very end with all those rolls. This track was okay. This one I didn't really connect with in any way. Like I said, the singing definitely didn't do anything for me. And musically, I found it kind of like, okay, it's fine. This to me, Kingdom Come feels like a little bit of fillerish to me. To be honest, musically it sounds fine, but honestly, there's nothing in there that I really find that interesting. This may be like the one of the favorite tracks of any Bowie fan and everything like that. I don't think that there's anything interesting in this one. I think it's actually kind of bland, to be honest. Listening just piece by piece again to see. It has a little bit of an old school rock and roll kind of feel to it, like a 50s, 60s kind of sound in the swing of the verse and even in those harmonies. That's nice, but yeah, actually, I don't even have anything much to talk about it. I just didn't really care for it that much. However, let's talk about these lyrics. While I walked in the pouring rain and I heard a voice that cries, it's all in vain. The voice of doom was shining in my room. I just need one day somewhere far away. Oh Lord, I just need one day. Well, I've been breaking these rocks and cutting this hay. Yes, I've been breaking these rocks. What's my price to pay? I think I also feel that it's a bit repetitive musically. Well, the river is so muddy, but it may become clear, and I know too well what's keeping me here. I'm just a slave of a burning ray. Oh, give me the night. I can't take another sight. Please, please give me the night. I kind of, just because of him talking about continually breaking rocks and running away and such, I'm feeling like he's a prisoner in some sort of situation. And he's just being put to hard labor, of course, breaking rocks and that kind of thing. And he can't get away. Even the waters are muddy, but they're becoming clearer. He's beginning to understand that maybe he does have an escape. Maybe he can get away. And he says, just give me the night. I can't take another sight. Now, that could be referring to give me the night, not Benson, but give me the night so that he could run away. Or it could also just be for rest. He may want to just die instead of suffering in this prison. Sun keeps beating down on me, walls a mile high. Up in the tower, they're watching me, hope I'm going to die. I think he's imprisoned in some capacity. And I think, I can't say this for sure, but when I click on the Wikipedia link for this song, it takes me to an album by Tom Verlaine, and I do see that on this album by Tom Verlaine, the third track on there is Kingdom Come. So I'm just going to take a stab and say that this is a cover of that original by Mr. Verlaine, which I haven't heard. I'm guessing. I'm assuming just because the link takes me right there. Anyways, it's all right. Let's move on to the next song, which is Because You're Young. Oh, let's go.
Psychedelic girl, come out to play tonight because you're young.
All right, that was a funky track. That one I'm getting down with a little bit, especially the verse. I think the verse is probably the most interesting, like, part rhythmically that we've heard in the album thus far. Just between the drums and the bass, we start with a and then we get a bum 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 bum. Like, the way that it changes, it's incredibly dynamic, which makes the verse a little bit unpredictable, but incredibly fun to listen to, eternally interesting, and then it moves into that chorus, which is just straight, just dancey. Not Danzig, dancey, right? Mother. And then Bowie sounds really good here. Sounds right back to where I expect him to be. Like, sounds absolutely fluid and dynamic, and like, it just feels good. This is a track that has a lot of personality, especially because of that verse, and then moves into something very catchy, very poppy in the chorus, which is a great combination. That's a very strong combination. I like the little synth line that's going along in the sides sometimes here. I'm just trying to pull this up here. Like, right back there. Like, it's just barely in there. I don't know why, but it reminds me a little bit of Ray from The Doors. Like, it's just kind of sidelining everything, sidelining this major groove that's being pushed forward through here. Like, that I really like. The lyrics, I was not paying attention. Psychedelic girl, that's interesting. Come out to play. Little metal-faced boy, don't stay away. They're so war-torn and resigned, she can't talk anymore. What are they trying to prove? What would they like to find? So, are we talking about children who are war-torn, traumatized from war? Maybe their parents were lost in a war? It's love back to front and no sides. These pieces are broken, like I say. These pieces are broken. Hope I'm wrong, but I know. Like, he sees, looking at these children, that they are hurt, beyond hurt, that they've gone through and seen terrible things. And he hopes for the best, but he knows and expects, unfortunately, the worst. Because you're young, you'll meet a stranger some night. Because you're young, what could be nicer for you? And it makes me sad, so I'll dance my life away. A million dreams, a million scars. There's this interesting contrast. Some people have millions of dreams, but some people have millions of scars. He punishes hard. Was loving her such a crime? She took back everything she said, left him nearly out of his mind. They're people I know, people I love. They seem so unhappy, dead or alive. Then he repeats, actually, the rest of the lines here. That one confuses me. He punishes hard. Was loving her such a crime? So are we now talking about domestic abuse of some sort? He says, people I know, people I love. They seem so unhappy, dead or alive. So maybe he's seen this occur in his life? I don't know. Let's look at Wikipedia, see what Wikipedia has to say. It says, on release, Bowie dedicated Because You're Young to his then 9-year-old son Duncan. Okay. Lyrically, the song is similar to other Scary Monsters tracks, featuring Billy. Where did I get Billy from? Featuring Bowie reflecting and advising a younger generation. Townsend's contributions are placed low in the mix. Townsend? Like Pete Townsend? Well, what do you know? You have Pete Townsend on guitar here. I did not know at all. Okay, well that's something. I didn't even see that. But I guess he's so low in the mix anyway. You can barely hear him regardless. Okay, so this being dedicated to his son Duncan, that can actually add a little bit more to the story than perhaps what's being presented. It says here, Because You're Young describes a relationship between two young people from an older, more cynical man's perspective. It is likely an allusion for Bowie's contemporary attitude about young troublemakers, particularly those involved in the new romantic fashion movements of the early 80s. Hey, don't you make fun of David Sylvian's hair. He had glorious hair. Uh, so I guess you can read it in quite a few different ways, actually. There's a lot of ways you can read that. Hey, but that's good music, right? If everyone is able to interpret it in their own different way. And then, of course, you have the artist's true intention, which may not be much of an intention at all. Could be, who knows? You never know. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on into the final track of our album listen. I hope that you guys have enjoyed listening to the album with me. That will be It's No Game number 2, which is actually 2 seconds or more than the first and earlier track. So let's go ahead and get into that there.
Silhouettes and shadows, and it's no game. Be insulted by these fascists is so degrading. It's no game.
At first, I couldn't tell if that was supposed to be clapping at the end, like fake clapping, because I know we've been talking about like government and stuff like that from this album, but it sounded like something more running out at the end. The biggest difference between this and the first one is this one is immediately more relaxed. Bowie is not screaming or yelling like he was in the first one. We also lose and cut out the Japanese narration that was happening then. This one moves across a lot more calmly, a lot more like peacefully, like acceptance. And I think, if I'm kind of thinking about this album, I don't think it's a concept album, but there is a strong theme kind of going throughout. Let me make sure really quick before I speak out of turn, because I haven't looked at any major notes about the album so far. No, but it doesn't look like, I don't see anything at least that it's like a concept or thematic or album or anything like that. But there is a certain kind of connection between all the tracks here and some of the themes, the acceptance, the fighting against and rebelling against certain powers that be. And this one comes across a lot more, like I said, relaxed. Some of the lyrics are changed as well, but some are the same. Silhouettes and shadows, watch the revolution. No more free steps to heaven. We've read that. Just walkie-talkie, heaven or hearth. Just big heads and drums. Full speed and pagan. And it's no game. I'm barred from the event, so I don't really understand the situation. So where's the moral? People have their fingers broken. To be insulted by these fascists is so degrading. So, compared with part one, which was like I said, was a lot heavier, a lot angrier, a lot more raw and outspoken, is he feeling defeated in some capacity? Hence why he sounds more accepting. Just vocally and musically, it moves a lot more smoother. Actually, another thing I didn't even think about, I can't say with 100% certainty, but I don't think that Fripp is even on this track. I don't think that he's on number 2. And he was kind of part of that energy from before on number 1. So if he's not playing guitar on number 2, that actually once again adds a lot to the theme of it by taking away someone out of the music. There's something you can think about. We repeat some of the lines from the first part about drawing the blinds on yesterday. It's also much scarier. Let me see what it says down here. It says, serving as more of a retelling of, rather than a sequel to part 1, Bowie is still angry about world problems like suppression, refugees. This time, however, the anger is more clear, less uncontrollable. Here, Bowie sounds more accepting about what he sees on the screen, but not quite in a defeated manner. He still wants a change, but getting angry and protesting only to forget about it soon afterwards will do little to actually help the situation. So a little bit more clear-headed in his approach. Perhaps the immediate reactionary fires have burned down, and now he can think with a cool head and cool coals on his shoulders to make and take certain actions towards whatever issues he's seeing that he wants to change. That's a nice way of bringing that all together. That's actually really cool. It's good songwriting. That's all I gotta say. Hey, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this album listen. Hope that you guys have enjoyed listening to David Bowie with me, as like I said, it's always a good time to listen to him. And you can let me know your thoughts on the album. You can let me know your thoughts, your favorite tracks. You can, recommend me stuff. As always, you can always do that kind of stuff. I think that for myself, I think my favorite tracks are It's No Game, number 1, particularly, to be honest, and Ashes to Ashes. I think those 2 tracks are the ones that stand out the most to me. I would say. Actually, even you can toss Scary Monsters and Super Creeps in there, actually. Yeah, those 3 I'd say at the top. But let me know what your favorite tracks are. Please let me know if you enjoyed listening to the album alongside me. I hope that you did. This is pretty much, for the most part, the peak, the zenith, the celebration of this Halloween season. So I hope that you've enjoyed the set. Hope you enjoyed the music, as the set will now go away, at least for another year. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful Halloween. And I guess that's it. Like the video before you leave. Subscribe if you haven't already. Comment, did you do that? You can follow me on Twitter. You can support the channel on Patreon. That's it, guys. That's it. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you as always for being here. And I will see you all later. Bye.